am Gabby Anderman. Thanks for joining us today for this intimate interview with Michele Cassou. As you probably know, Michele created the Point Zero method of painting and has painted thousands of her own paintings, as well as teaching thousands of students worldwide. Michele is the author of almost a dozen books, including her most recent book, Painting Between Worlds, which details Michele's extraordinary life journey from her childhood through to the present. And I'm with Cherie today, one of Michele's senior training facilitators, and we're both longtime students of Michele. And today we're going to be discussing Painting Between Worlds, her newest book, as it relates to creative intuition. Without further ado, welcome, Michele. Thanks for talking with us this morning. We're so excited to discuss your book, Painting Between Worlds. This book just came out a little over a month ago. So welcome.
Thank you, Gabby. And thank you everyone for coming today. We have a lot of people, and that is, I'm very pleased because I will be able to answer whatever question you have. And I wanted just to say a little bit about this book. This book was appeared by itself. I didn't really write it. It wrote itself along the year, like one month, a page, another page, and along the year, it just goes all together. And now that I'm getting older, I thought, well, we'll publish it after I'm past. And then I say, why not doing it now? And so we put, with the help of some editor, of course, we put all the story together. And then, of course, I wrote more to catch up with the present. And to just to make it more like I want. So here it is. And I thought this morning I was just going to read very little about it, just the beginning, to start when I first started painting, because this book is really, it's not about telling you about my life. Who cares? One more life. There are billions of lives. But I want this book to be about how the painting process, the creativist process, can change a life and can model a life and can do all kinds of things. And I wanted to give an example of that. Of course, it's not a model. Everybody will have their own unique path and their own unique adventure. But I wanted to give an example about the power of creativity. And that's what it's going to be about, the power and the potential that there is there. So I'm going to read a little bit of that with my very big French accent. I hope you can make it up, but it's going to be short. So it's like the first day, I was not that creative until I came to the children's studio. I was like 21, and I had searched for a long time how to express my feeling, my creativity, my perception, and I have not been successful. And that day when I came to the children's studio, everything all of a sudden just lightened up and gave me all the answer I was looking for. So I'm going to read that little part here, and then after that we move to the question. Okay. So it's part of the metamorphosis in the book. It's on page 85. When I arrived at the children's painting studio that first day, I had no idea what to expect. Stepping through the multicolored door to the painting studio, I faced a magical sight. The room was vibrating with mysterious, lively energy. Colors were floating in the air, imbued with a deep sense of power. A dozen little bodies were pouring out forms and images spontaneously. Sheltered from judgment, criticism, and competition, these children were giving themselves to the natural process of self-expression, to the pulse of creation. The studio was a very small room without windows, a sort of colorful room, a place that offered no contact with the outside world and no possible intrusion. In this room, every feeling had its place. The deep tension of the psyche, the mysterious longing, the dark feeling, the ancient aches, all were carried spontaneously by the river of life, expose, reconcile, whole. There was nothing to hide and nothing to pretend. There was no success or failure, no shame or pride. There was nothing special to achieve, no problem to resolve. And then after that, I asked permission to paint with the children, and and that's when everything started. In the space of a few days, I metamorphosed into another type of human being. My entire behavior, my taste, my goals, my way of life was fully transformed. It was as though I had shed a thick skin that all this time had prevented me from being my true self. My brain activity changed too. Suddenly, instead of repeating what I had learned or heard, I was thinking for myself, producing original thought about art, life, and spirit. Okay, so that was the beginning of my long life passion for painting. All right, so now I'm going to be ready for questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for reading that. Wow, we have, Cherie and I have so many different questions, but you just even reading that, it sparked one question that I have, which is, throughout the book, you describe so many supernatural, it seems like to me, and extraordinary experiences along your path. And I'm wondering if you know of any of your students or other people who have had similar kinds of experiences, or do you think that they were just unique to you? And do you think that those types of experiences are part of this process?
Well, you have to keep in mind that I'm a passionate painter. So I painted probably more than most people could ever do in their life.
Yeah.
So when you do a lot of something, of course, you're going to go to the root of these things and you will have a lot more coming out. So it's true, I had a lot of experiences, but you see, what's important is not the experiences. It's what's the wisdom and the understanding that comes out of it. And like, in a way, when we paint, we are not like a little person in a little corner painting. We are in contact with the whole universe, with the whole past and the whole future, with time and space, with all the boundaries. We are in contact with everything. And so it's not like really a personal experience. And anybody that is going to go and paint in going towards the unknown, you understand that word, unknown, which is a very powerful word. They are bound to open door and to knock at door and to find passageway into their consciousness that are going to be very different than their familiar world, because we all have a tendency as staying as safe as we can in our little world, and we construct, it's a collective conditioning. We are brought up to construct a place to stay in and to be safe and to understand and to know everything. And the painting cracks the door and the window and the boundary to show you behind this enclosure that we have behind the house. So, so people, other experiences are going to be very different because it's going to depend on what they need,
Mm-hmm.
What is closer to them? What is it that behind their door or this wall or this window, what is it that they are hiding unconsciously inside of them? But ultimately, everybody wants a contact with reality, whatever shape it takes. And the creative process, which is moving into the unknown, not following rules, not following a path, is going to bring you into different paths. And everybody is going to have different experiences at different time. And it's always going to be perfect. It's going to be exactly what they need. So that's what I love about this process. If somebody paint once and just tap into some kind of realization or some kind of awakening of some sort, this is what they need. If they contract, because something is coming that's too strong for them, this is what they need. And that's going to lead them to the next step. So people that give their life to painting, like me, of course, they're going to go a long way. I have a lot of my students that have touched many, many places that are very deep, and it always rejoices me. I always love to see people entering into new spaces, because it's a very making of what life and space are that is really questioned. It's like entering quantum physics at times. It's like moving. So it just depends. And but ultimately, I love to have people the freedom to let that happen, because it is such an interesting feeding, a nurturing place to touch, because the moment somebody touch beyond the border of who they think they are, there is something happen. And generally joy comes with, there is insights that are coming about their life. It doesn't have to be going to the spirit. It could be about their life. It could be about the way they behave in the world, the way they look at, at life and death, time and space. What's the border of time? What's the border of space? I mean, these are questions maybe many people have. And the painting is going to lead you to the edge. And that's the way I like to talk about it. So for a long time, I was like the edge. You're going to the edge of what you know, the edge of what you are, the edge that you believe, at the edge. Whatever this edge is, and then you're going to crack open a little place so you can see through the fence. And that is very exciting. And I don't know other things that I'm sure there are other ways to do that. But the painting is a wonderful, perfect tool for that.
Great. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I want to reintroduce Cherie, who also has some questions. Cherie, do you want to ask the next question?
Absolutely. So, Michele, I think this is so relevant to life now, but in your chapter on the meaning of life, page 129, to kind of summarize, you had given up everything. And you had given up everything wanting a freedom lifestyle over everything else. And so I think, like right now in these times, you wrote this line that I thought was so rich. It said, you'd given up everything and had decided an austere life was going to be, you would do anything in order to live this life of freedom. And this line that you wrote was, I had the marvelous feeling of being where I wanted and of wanting nothing more from life than what I had.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think like right now when so much is being either changed or taken away, I think that question is so relevant to the times. And could you speak to that? And
well, at that time, I had discovered, you see, I spent all my childhood until over 20 looking like every person I think in life is looking for a path, or everybody. And I have spent the time looking and not find anything, and all of a sudden I felt that all the food I could get, inside food I could get, everything was there into doing my yoga, my meditation, and my painting and my drawing, and it was, and all the rest that society had told me was so important, like like the way you dress, the scale of your money and all that all of a sudden I just completely lost their meaning to me. So I was really in the stream of what I felt was nurturing me, was what I wanted. And I knew that it was bound to lead me to, I didn't know what, but to lead me to whatever mystery I was trying to discover. At a time like now, it does not change that. We still have to make a living. We still have to pay attention to what we do. We have the threat of death on our head, which we didn't have in the past when we were brought up at that time. And I think it's the very best time to enter the unknown, because we might find a lot of answers there. We might find a lot of feelings that can develop. So that's the only difference. It's like you do where your passion lies. Follow your bliss, like Joseph Campbell say. But at the same time, you're going to have questions that you never had before. So what is death? Which is very interesting about the painting process. It's like, ultimately, everybody is going to meet the basic archetype of humanity, life and death, all the metaphor, everything that all the people have told about, all the spiritual figure, all the great teachers have told. You're going to meet all these archetypes, and death is always like very, very, it's a huge thing in the life of someone, because there is always a fear of death, or the protection against death. And when you enter the unknown, it's like you're dying. You go into a place, you're letting go. It's like we're carrying a lot of luggage. Yeah, you're carrying a lot of luggage, and all of a sudden you have to let it go. And then as you let go of your luggage, of all your conditioning, of all your demands, all of your desires that do not go very far, then what are you going to find? Like, where is the ending? Who am I? What does it mean to die? And you're going to start entering into the vessels, the little tubes, that are going to tell you slowly, what is death is all about. And that is very fascinating. Death has very interested me, because I went through many stages and came close to death a few times, and seeing the different ways that it could be old is really fascinating. It really hurts me all the time when I see people being so afraid, so traumatized, with death, when death can be looked at as a really wonderful thing, a wonderful adventure, a wonderful movement towards the unknown. It's just like painting. Sometimes I was used to tell my student, which I don't know if it was right to do it, but I will say, the more you paint, the more ready you will be after you die, because if after you die, you are not used to move into the unknown. What are you going to do when you get there and you are like in a completely different place where nothing is familiar? So, going towards what you really want, what you're really interested in, the painting find it for you. You don't have to decide, I'm going to work on the spirit, or I'm going to work on my desire, my sexual desire, or I'm not going to work on this. Intuition knows what you need, and it takes you exactly where you need to go all the time. This is one of the fascinating things, that you can let go of the wheel. You can just go on the back seat and let yourself drive, and you will see when you let it be, that it takes you exactly what you need. And as you keep going and going, the metaphor of life, the big question of life, and are just they just pop up, and you enter in it, little bit but little. There is a lot of deposit in the pipes, but it just goes. It just clean it up slowly, so you can just pass through it, and that is such an incredible security. It's such a wonderful feeling to know that in a certain way you are not your little thing with your little thought, and you are carried by this current that is coming from far away. I call it like universal, metaphysical, spiritual. It doesn't have to be tied to any religion, to any avatar or anything. It passes through you, and it's like intelligence passing through you. It's like the intelligence that wants us to finally open our eyes, because as we are brought up, we have not opened our eyes very much. So it's like, and now you are taken care of. When you are in the unknown and you stop choosing, deciding the color, deciding the form and all that, you are being taken care of by the greatest intelligence in the world that's just going to guide you if you let it. Of course, if you start manipulating, it's different. Okay, Cherie?
Absolutely, because I think that's there's so many benefits to this process that until you've experienced it, you can't get the depth of the benefits that come to a human being. And specifically that one of being very comfortable in the unknown is one of the greatest benefits this process offered me. And I think it's one of many gifts, but it's hard for people to imagine all of this can happen in front of a piece of paper with...
Yeah. Because we generally are afraid of the unknown, and you said you got comfortable with it. So that's really the thing, creativity. That's what pure creativity. There are so many other kind of pure creativity, pure intuition. So it's always going to give you what you need, not what you want. Can you get that one? Not what you need, what you want. Not what you want, what you need.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. No. Is there more, Cherie?
No, it's Gabby.
We're gonna go back and forth a little bit, and I'll ask a question, and then Cherie will ask a question, and we also have some questions coming in from some other listeners. But speaking, on about the unknown, and there's a few things in the book that just are so interesting to read. One on page 287. You're talking about time. And you say, as I looked with astonishment at that fact, I saw through the illusion of time and how it seems to power all things. Then I had the most extraordinary insight. I saw how time was created. And I was just wondering if you could speek to that a little.
Oh, no.
Or not.
This is too, it goes like such a long way. The thing is, time is not what we think we are. That I got very big. And the day I was about how it's created, you can't imagine time being created, because there is all the time before, and there is infinite. The idea of the infinite in front of us, in the future, in the past, and all of a sudden you realize it's kind of a concept at a certain level. But that is hard to talk about. This is like a very advanced talking.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I think I'm not going to have time to talk about that. But what I can say is that you can understand how time is created, and when you understand that, it's just like, wow. I mean, it's just like something you're never going to forget or recover from it, because it changes everything. It's like space, it's like before I kept asking me, what's at the edge of time? What at the edge of space? Actually, in the new little book I'm writing now, I'm trying to talk about this thing in a gentle way, but that's my purpose, because I've written a lot of books, but I have never dared putting this kind of, be more metaphysical or more strange, more spiritual. So this time I'm trying to do it, but it's extremely difficult because people can understand in so many different ways. But if you are interested, you can get your little grapes from here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Cherie, do you have another question?
Yeah. So, Michele, so like when you're talking about 100% pure creativity, where we are exploring the limitlessness of life, and this process is always, like you said, an invitation into the unknown, which is limitless. And in your chapter on Buddha and the giant snake, which I love the name of that just intrigues me. So in Buddha and the giant snake on page 159, that in this time that you had discovered that there were no limits to life except human limits. And that is a perfect example of what this process offers, a chance to experience no limits and to see that.
This is why the more I went teaching, the more I kept talking about pure creativity. Why did I talk about pure creativity? Because I consider there is a lot of creativity that are not pure. And if it's mixed up with something that's not pure, it's never going to go all the way beyond the concept and the expectation. And it's not going to make you enter the brain, the completely new, the absolutely new. It's not going to surprise you. You see, like in one of my recent writing, I was saying it's like an arrow that reaches you when you get something new. It's not a little thing. It's just like boom, like the inside, they are like huge. And but if creativity is not pure, what does it mean? It means that you're thinking of the way it looks. You're thinking about selling it or people liking it. You are thinking of what you mean. And you don't want to mean certain things, you like it to mean other things. Like you manipulate a little bit, like you let a little bit of freedom and then you catch it back. And it's like you put a rope around it, You let it free and take it back. You let it free and take it on a leash. And that is creativity that's not pure. It's not that it doesn't have a place. Of course, it has a place in life. And for some people, it's really important. And they like beautiful things that decorate things, so they want to work on just one thing. But pure creativity doesn't work on one thing, doesn't want anything out of it. If nobody is ever going to see it, it's okay. It's not even thought of. It's like a different language. So pure creativity is like when you don't interfere. Not 1%, zero. No interference. And but you see, this is like a real challenge, People that have done meditation, they understand it much better. But if you have not done meditation, all of a sudden you are asked to let go. And the collective mass of things that you have learned since you were a child is fighting. You want to be right. You want to have something you can explain. And sometimes when you paint some very, very deep things and you can't even explain them, So is that okay with you? Can that be okay with you? And sometimes they manifest physically, sometimes they don't. And it doesn't even matter. It's not that important. And that's why, in a way, when I wrote the book, there is a lot of little suspenseful story like that. But if you go to the very end of the book, then everything comes together. And sometimes I'm afraid people are just going to read the beginning and not going to the very end. And just, so when everything comes together, it's not about this, about that vision, about that snake, about that virgin. It's about the whole perception of life. And also, after the very end of the book, there is a foreword, and in the foreword, there is a letter to the student. And I think that's quite important. That's one of the most important pieces, actually, for the student to read, the people that want to paint. because finally everything came together. So it's like I went through all this journey and then finally things came together in some ways. But life is still full of mystery, as you know.
Well, and when you mentioned that, Michelle, you're kind of pointing to how you've talked about it's contradictory. It's 100% pure creativity is impersonal and personal to the painter at the same time.
Yeah,
And
it's all mixed up. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I tell people when I teach them, I will tell one person something and the next person on the side the opposite. And they're like, what? You just said the opposite. I say, yeah, it's all unique. Every moment, every person is unique. So you cannot have, this is why we cannot develop a technique and say you do this and then you do that. Then that will help you to go through time, through space, through your parents. You cannot, because you might go through the great metaphysical depths and then all of a sudden you're going to remember a boyfriend that you had when you were 10-year-old and that did something to you or something, or you're going to remember what your mother, and then you're going to go into the planets. It does what it needs to do for you to enter the unknown fully. And that we cannot know in advance. Nobody can know. It's the wisdom of creativity. And that's when it's really important to realize that creativity has wisdom. There is a great wisdom in every gesture, every little stroke, every little dot of pure creativity has wisdom. And every little dot is going to bring you to the next dot, and to the next line, and to the next realization, and to the next insight, and to the next feeling, and to the next wound, whatever you need to experience. Every little bit is, but of course people don't believe it, but that's the way it works. One dot can do incredible work. People don't realize that. If it's the right dot at the right moment where you really need to do it, the dot might open an entire world, So it's like we have to trust, we really have to trust the wisdom of creativity. Because I remember at time alone I painted so many years at time, it will look almost like a regression. It will look, oh my God, after painting all this painting, now you're just scribbling around, you're doing a mess, you stay 20 minutes on the painting, but it was all perfect. But I trusted it. That's the thing I had. I was really lucky. I really trusted it. So if you wanted me to scribble for 3 months, I will scribble for 3 months, And then, or for a day or for a minute, whatever. I trusted that what it made me do was the best thing for me, It's like the best parents of creativity. They know how to raise their child. Yeah.
that's perfect. That's perfect.
Thank you. That's so great.
Good.
One of the things that I have been coming up against in my, painting process now is the idea of lightness and darkness and painting both of those things. And you touch upon this in the book on page 316. You talk about, you say, a few days later, black brush in hand, I suddenly had a powerful insight. Darkness was part of God's manifestation. The darkness was God's expression as much as the light, just the other side of the coin. Living in duality, what else could I have expected? The dark was necessary and had its own role to play. And I just found that to be, it's such a beautiful concept. It's something that I've been coming up against, kind of exploring in my own painting process. And I was wondering if you could, talk about that a little bit as well.
Yes, well, this world that we know when we are born, it has dimension. It has physical dimension, it has a lifespan, it has things you eat, things you do, it's all set in a way. But this is a world of duality. We know that, the good and the bad, the failure and the success. The whole world is duality because everything is plus and minus. So all of a sudden, you just realize this is the world itself. You are bound, you are living in this world. Your feet are standing on it. Your feet are standing on the good and the bad. We don't want the bad, all the religion and everything are trying to get rid of the bad. But we know it doesn't work like that. Nobody has been able to get rid of it. It is necessary. Actually, the bad is important because it brings the good. Without the bad, you won't have the good. The more you feel you let enter the bad inside of you, the more good will come out of you. And so when you paint and you open up to whatever your spontaneity is asking you, you're going to paint the good, but the bad is going to sneak in because it's half of it. We are living in duality. So it's like we have to accept duality and accept that there is the good and the bad, and that also the bad comes the good. And the step beyond that is that it does not matter because this is only the earth. One planet with the good and the bad. And we don't know what's beyond matter and time. Like you were talking about time. If you take time out, you don't have the planet anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's like there is something beyond that. It exists, it's there, it's important, it's tangible, and you have to deal with it every day. But there is something beyond. And I think every human being wants desperately, if they know it or not, to touch a little bit of what's beyond that. Yeah. Beyond that enclosure of good and bad, right and wrong, matter and time, They want to, I know the scientists and the quantum physics is looking into it very much and start saying there is void everywhere and it doesn't work like we thought and time can be different kind of time. So they're entering there and they're trying to tell us, hey, what you believe is not exactly, scientifically like what you said, but actually it's not. Because there is something beyond it, beyond what we can define. Mm? So that's really an intriguing aspect. And the moment that has entered your consciousness, then you stop fighting. It wants dark, let's paint dark. Because dark has a function. Everything that has appeared on the earth has a function.
There was another question that came through on the chat that I thought was interesting. It says, is there one piece of advice, being a seasoned painter that you are today, that you could offer to a beginning 21-year-old painter at the start? Like if you could give somebody that is just beginning, and even, a thought that came into my mind, somebody who maybe isn't a painter, but what advice would you give for somebody who isn't maybe interested in painting or somebody who's just beginning?
I will ask them what kind of life they want to live. Do they want to live a life of exploration, or do they want to live the life expected that they should live? That's the first thing I ask. And if they tell me they want to live a life of exploration, I say, okay, let's study and find out what are the different ways to explore. And I will say, by the way, painting could be a way to explore life and to explore what's beyond what we are used to, what we know. When we are born, our parents think we are this person, but they generally don't see very much beyond or the potential beyond. So do you want to explore what's beyond life? What's coming? What is death? What is birth? Do you want to explore, the feeling? When you have a feeling, do you want to explore where they source from? Where they really want to go? What they need? What's very important, I find, actually, when I started painting, I find what was very important was to express my feelings. I felt I was 21 and I had never truly expressed my feelings. Never. Of course, I was trying like everybody, but I feel I had never done it. I didn't know how to do it. So I was doing things that people told me to do. I was repeating things. I was copying things. And I didn't know how to express my feeling. But when I went with the children and I saw them, like boom, 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 they will do things. I say, I can do that too. So I did it. Of course, I thought it was ugly and disgusting and badly done, but I was doing it. And the feeling it gave me inside was enormous release. I got the release. I tell people I think I will have died if I didn't need painting, because I was like so full. I had such a difficult childhood. I just, I was like going to end. But the moment I touched into this feeling, and they started to express themselves. They didn't even ask me what I wanted to express. They did it, and the relief was enormous. I felt I could live now 500 years and I keep doing that. That was this kind of feeling. Yeah. So I will talk to the young person and tell them, do you want to express yourself? It is so important, because we are having feeling we don't know we have. You see, there is feelings that are really easy to say, okay, my boss did that, it made me angry, I was happy for that. These feelings are really easy to find out. But there is a lot of feeling underneath or mixed with it that we don't know. They go back unconsciously. So how do you express your unconscious feeling? You don't even know you have them. So when you paint, the conscious feeling come and the unconscious feeling come, and they become much more important. We have so many unconscious feelings inside, where we responded, the way we reacted to life as a baby, as a little baby barely born. We already had feelings. Of course, everybody thinks they forgot all of it. Everything is inside. And I remember having feeling as a baby coming out of my mother's womb. I do remember. And we all have that, but it's hidden. It's called the unconscious, but the unconscious is much bigger than we think. So when you start expressing that, it's kind of a delight. Not only it relieves the pressure, but it expands your brain. You have a sense it expands the brain, it expands your consciousness. So that's what I will say. I will say, try it and see how it makes you feel. But don't do it for other people. Do it like you do a journal. Do it like you will write about like this private, hidden, secret. Do it secretly at the beginning. Yeah. I thought I will never, ever show anything I have done. You see, our life brings some change. Now, after all a lifetime, I say, why not show things as an example? But it was always thought that I will never do that. Yeah, so you can get young people. You see, if you start children when they're really young to express themselves spontaneously, they will remember as adults to do it. Most of children never had that. They are told to paint beautiful things. They are told to paint, to balance things, to color, to make, they are told rules. So they cannot remember. But if you can start a child, even if it happened to them once, they're going to remember as they grow up that there is a place of freedom in painting. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. It's so, I have my own kids, 11 and 9, and even at their age that they're at, they've already been sort of suppressed and told that they can paint this way or that way. So yeah, just the idea of introducing that into kids' lives, but even as an adults to rediscover the notion of being able to be really fully self-expressed, free creatively is such a freedom.
Yeah. Children are already lose it already around 3 or 4. In the past, it was 5. Now, by 3-year-old, they already have lost it. 3-4-year-old. You know why? Because without knowing it, the parent transmit what they think about. Expression, what they think about the painting, the process, So they absorb that, even if it's not talked to them. They do absorb it. If it's not from their parents, it's from their teacher, their neighbor, whatever. But children, very young, you lose their freedom of expression. Yeah.
Cherie.
Well, that leads me to think about what you wrote right at the end of the book on page 341, and how through your painting you woke up to a secondhand life.
Yes.
And I see that, so through all the facilitations of workshops over the years, it's amazing how people paint and they, now, those are your words, the secondhand life, but people wake up and decide they're going to live in a different way. They're going to live a freer lifestyle.
Yeah, it was really the feeling, waking up to another, from a second-hand life. It's like I had this sense, but it was not just a sense in my head, it was in my whole body and everywhere. I was finally growing up. When I was painting, I was feeling I was growing up. And I was growing up because my consciousness was waking up. And that's what happened. Before, I was like a person, like a regular person in Paris, this kind of neighborhood, this kind of surroundings, this kind of middle class thing. I was just like the person they expected me to be. It was more like trying to live like they expect. And then all of a sudden, you are your own person. You have your own thoughts. And you might not think like other people. It might be difficult at times, but you get used to it after a while. And then, it's like you wake up, you grow up. Didn't you ever feel that in your painting process that you grow up? I did. For me, it was very clear. It's growing up.
Very much. Very much. Yeah. Yeah, Gabby?
Yes, I was, this is something we sort of touched upon it already, but it really stood out to me. You were talking about death, and you talk about on page 333, it's towards the end of the book, but you're talking about your father's life. And, I kind of wanted to ask this before, but to just bring it up again, you say that my father had not died. He could not die. The simple reason was that he had never existed. And, my father's life was an accumulation of frames, like in a movie reel, each one on top of the other, parallel. The frames were connected only by the movement of thought that seemed to tie them together. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to describe it, to describe your father's life as like a movie frames on top of one another. But such an incredible concept to wrap my head around. And, just how I'm sure that was a comforting realization for you, I would think.
It was powerful, yeah.
And to just, speak on that a little bit, because oh, well, no, yeah. But, like my mother just died a couple of years ago, and my father is aging, my aunts and uncles are aging, and, to maybe just touch on that a little more about losing people, in this life, and how the painting process can sort of connect us to other people, to connect us to people past, or I don't know what that brings up.
Well, it brings up that life is not death is not what we think. I mean, the thoughts are kind of, I know a lot of people will bump on what I wrote there, but it just came so naturally. I had to write it. It's like more like the Buddhist approach. I will think, I don't know Buddhism that much. I don't know any religion that much. But it's like, I just realized that my father never existed in the sense I thought he was existing. So he never died in the sense I thought he was alive. And actually, if I went to the very end, we don't really exist. And what happened when you keep painting? Like I say at the end of the book, I say, one day I told myself at the beginning, I say, what is going to happen to me if I keep painting my whole life? And it was a real question. It just came from my stomach. I was like, oh my God, if that is powerful now that I'm 22-year-old, what is going to happen to me if I keep painting? So now after so many years, I say, okay, I better write it. I mean, I better put it in a book. And even show the painting, because it's a personal aspect. So but it's just one example about a billion example. You know, I am not like a model, you know, and I hope it comes up through the book that I'm not a model. People don't need to have vision. They don't have to have the same paintings. They don't, you know, it's just a model of what happened. The unknown can open towards anything. So I put this book because I wanted to give an example. It's just an example among a lot, like saying, okay, it could go really far. It is really powerful. It was like saying, look how powerful it is. Some people think, you know, it's strange and this, you know, and they might argue on anything, but this is not what matters. What matters is that it was powerful. And it's just a model among a lot of models. And, you know, everybody will have a different book if they did write it at the end of their life.
Thank you. Well, I feel, I know, so grateful that you wrote the book and shared your, you know, path. I know it's one path, but with us in this way, in this very, you know, intimate way. And thank you, you know, for just talking with us this morning, for bringing this process to the world, for continuing to share it with us.